And this podcast is brought to you by the Repost Network. Repost Network. Monetize your SoundCloud content. Sign up today at repostnetwork.com. And by Jeff from Sleep Cheap. Sleep Cheap, the home of the $199 mattress. This is the power of pro wrestling. A podcast by wrestling fans for wrestling fans. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Coming up today, we're discussing if Ring of Honor would have existed if ECW never went out of business. Plus our top 5 moments and rapid fire next on the Power of Pro Wrestling podcast. Welcome to the show. This is your host, Robert Red.
I'm Chris Heineken. We are in the house. This is the Power of Pro Wrestling podcast. And now, you heard the open. So first off, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Cornbread. How about yourself?
Well, I'm just still baking out of that oven. But we got rapid fire top 5, as you already heard. But a direct but technically indirect information regarding ECW and Ring of Honor that we're about to discuss right now. And I'm told that you got some background information that you'd like to share.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of set up the question with some background information, and then we're going to get into it. So like you said, it's going to have to deal with ECW and Ring of Honor. Or, as you know, at the time of this recording, it's Ring of Honor's 14th anniversary show, which is live on pay-per-view. And cheap plug, we did a show yesterday where we gave our predictions, so you might want to check that out. So let me
available on PlayStation Network, too.
Yeah, available on PlayStation Network if you got one of those. But
let's get to it.
But not the podcast, obviously the pay-per-view, so let's make that clear so we don't confuse the listeners. But let's get into the background. Now, the Tri-State Wrestling Alliance was founded by Joel Goodhart in 1989, and it was the foundation for what would later become one of wrestling's most infamous promotions in ECW. After selling his shares of the company to Todd Gordon in 1992, the company was renamed Eastern Championship Wrestling and became a member of the NWA, which is the National Wrestling Alliance. After parting ways with the NWA in 1994, the company's name was later changed to Extreme Championship Wrestling, along with the change of in-ring style. The company continued under the direction of Paul Heyman until it closed its doors due to bankruptcy in 2001. To fill that void, a new company was formed the next year by RF Video owner Rob Feinstein, I believe is his name.
It's Feinstein.
Feinstein. So I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Mr. Cornbread, and your opinion. Do you think Ring of Honor would have existed if ECW would have never went out of business?
Originally, I would say yes, but the only reason I'm changing the answer is because, look at a lot of the people that works for Ring of Honor today that have worked previously with ECW. I think it would work because, many people, the old classification used to be TNA was the new ECW as far as bringing in an influx of talent and really, really giving them a big stage to get over. But all of that's really been going right on back to Ring of Honor because now you have the same guys that worked ECW behind the scenes, and even with RF Video, all those guys are now with Ring of Honor and Sinclair Broadcasting in particular. And it's interesting to see that, Ring of Honor has really come a lot far, but ECW, I think Sinclair would have taken over ECW and really would have made ECW what Ring of Honor is today, even without, the quote-unquote change of styles. Because now, if ECW was still in existence and Paul Heyman was still with the company, you would have now been on a bigger style playing field, the same with Ring of Honor. So I would say, would ECW still been around if ROH wasn't there? I would say yes.
Okay, some very valid points. To me,
what do you think?
To me, Ring of Honor, when I really started to think about it, Ring of Honor may have been in existence if ECW not went out of business. I just don't think it would have been as successful as it is because I feel, and I've said this to you off the podcast, that ECW spiritual successor is Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor is a spiritual successor to ECW. To me, Ring of Honor was created to fill a void that ECW left, because we talk about the big three, and throughout history, wrestling has been usually dominated by the big three companies. Wrestling works in threes a lot of times. Even our show, we have 3 segments. So, I mean, and I feel when ECW closed its doors in 2001, that left a big void in professional wrestling, and that was kind of picked up by Ring of Honor. Now, that's why I said Ring of Honor may have existed. It just may have not been as big. So, and you just pointed out something I wanted to address, that you have it. You look at Ring of Honor, early Ring of Honor, and even Ring of Honor now still has shades of ECW, because you still have Steve Corino there, which was a big guy in late ECW. When Ring of Honor first started, you had Raven, and a lot of, I think, ECW talent possibly worked for Ring of Honor as well. So with that, that's what I'm saying. If ECW didn't went out of business, I'm not sure how Ring of Honor would have done, because the whole concept of Ring of Honor was to bring the best indie talent together all under one roof. That's why I said it may have existed. It just wouldn't probably be as big as it turned out to be. So with that, and I feel that Ring of Honor wouldn't be the massive success it is today if ECW had been around, because ECW, what I feel would have happened, and even Paul Heyman has stated this, is ECW was really going to change from that hardcore extreme style that it is to be more like what Ring of Honor is now.
Like CCW, because CCW, they've been around a long time. They've been around right at the same time that ECW started on TNN, and they're still around today. They had to change their style big time. I mean, they still have a little bit of the hardcore style, but they had to change their in-ring style in order to be a little bit more competitive.
Yes, that's some very good points, but that's all the time we have left for this segment. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Guys, don't go anywhere. We have our top 5 moments coming up right after this, so stay tuned. Don't go anywhere.
Tired of the same uncomfortable mattress? Want to sleep better without breaking the bank? I got good news for you. Go to Sleep Cheap. They have a huge inventory of mattresses at incredible prices. With guaranteed financing with no credit score required, that makes it easy for you to qualify for a brand new mattress. Use the promo code PPWP today and get 30% off. Go see Jeff Toddy at 2801 South Caraway Road in Jonesboro, Arkansas. It's time to get your sleep back. It's time to sleep cheap.
This is The Godfather, and you're listening to the Power of Pro Wrestling. Oh, yeah, podcast.
Welcome back to the show. Brace yourselves. It's now time for our top 5. With all the exciting action this week, we'll be counting down our favorite moments from 5 to 1, starting with number 5.
My number 5 pick will go to Monday Night Raw. Most people, I know you probably disagree with me on this one, but Shane O'Mac's return to Monday Night Raw will be my number 5 pick. Normally it would not enter this list, but it has to be talked about, especially with any and everything concerning all the controversy heading into WrestleMania. The quote-unquote lackluster deal of WrestleMania. And now they're putting together lineups and cards, but now there's even a bigger topper deal. Shane O'Mac coming back. Hey, fans popped it in Detroit. Excellent electric moment. What's your number 5?
Well, my number 5, I'm actually going to go to the rival promotion TNA, and this is surprising because it's an X Division match that I've got here. It was the X Division title match inside 6 Sides of Steel. It was Trevor Lee and Tigre Uno, and Trevor Lee is the current X Division champion, and he was defending the title against the former champion Tigre Uno, who's been a long-time running champion.
Oh, yeah.
And what I loved about this match was it was a competitive match, but really what caught my eye and get me excited, because like I've said on here, what allows me to pick my top 5 moments are, you got to get me pumped inside. There's got to be something good in the match that gets me excited for the match, the outcome, the finish, the upcoming story, something. And this match provided that with the big high spot off the top of the cage from Tigre Uno getting on Trevor Lee, and then having the ultimate finish of Trevor Lee retaining the title. I mean, that was just a great competitive match, so that's why I put it at my number 5. So number 4.
My number 4 goes to Lucha Underground. Johnny Mundo, and then the Machine, the man they call Cage from the 559. Innovative, defensive, and competitive are the three words I'm going to describe this match. Granted, Cage is really threw some egg on my face, because literally I thought, he was just all built and all muscle. Well, since season 1 up until now, he's really graduated himself and proved himself. And Mundo, you can't say anything other than, hey, he just made another big-time star in Cage. Excellent competitive match. That's my number 4. What's yours?
Well, my number 4, I'm actually going to go to Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor doesn't get a lot of love sometimes on my list, and we are talking Ring of Honor for this since it is their anniversary show, so I'll have to put something from Ring of Honor on my list. Now, I actually had put this thing on my list last week, but it happened again this week on TV, so I have to put it back on my list.
Going on.
The Adam Page, BJ Whitmer confrontation that happened. I mean, we've got the matches coming up tonight on pay-per-view, which we mentioned earlier.
Grudge match,
so that dynamic, and it goes back to getting me excited for the 14th anniversary show, and this has got me excited for the 14th anniversary show. And like we mentioned, Steve Corino of ECW alumni and his problems with BJ Whitmer, and then having Adam Page last week reveal that it was him, and then having Whitmer kind of go face-to-face with Corino being on the stage, and then just Page coming from behind and attacking him and having a melee. It was just a great moment, and Nigel McGuinness kind of had his hands full on this week's episode of Ring of Honor. He had fights break out all the time. He's like, can we not just wait for the pay-per-view, people? So that's kind of why I put it at number 4 is the Adam Page BJ Whitmer confrontation.
Number 3.
My number 3, I'm sticking with Ring of Honor television, but with a little different twist. I'm going with the World Television Championship match. Roddy Strong, as Mark Briscoe would call it, and Jonathan Gresham, the one guy that many people are predicting to be the next Bryan Danielson. To me, what really made this match my number 3 and should have been higher on my list was the fact that it was a strikers match, one, because it almost felt like I was watching a Roddy Strong versus Bryan Danielson match. Because the similarities between Gresham and Danielson are very, very close. Very close. Excellent game plan. Ground game plan. Hey, take away the grip. How can you grip if you have no fingers? Smart strategy. How can you grip if you got no arm? Smart strategy. But it took a strong knee to knock out Gresham and retain the TV title. It was very competitive. It went high on my list. That's my number 3. What's yours?
Well, my number 3 moment is going to be from TNA Impact Wrestling, and it's going to be for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship inside of 6 Sides of Steel. So, with that, what I loved about this match was I loved the dynamic, the build into this match. You had EC3 several weeks ago lose the title to Matt Hardy, and Matt Hardy turning heel, which I felt was unnecessarily done. But with that, at just the build of EC3 coming back and getting his rematch for the TNA title was great. And I loved the moment earlier in the night of Rockstar Spud and EC3. The kind of interaction, it was like, kind of thank you for having my back. I didn't really ask for it, but thank you for having my back. And then just going into this match, it was great. A confrontation, and then you had the Tyrus coming in and trying to kind of stop EC3 from getting a pin or escaping the cage, and then that backfiring. And then you have Rabby coming out to try to do the hammer with help Matt Hardy win, and then you have Rockstar Spud come out and make the save to take the hammer away, but spoiler alert, heel turn, Rockstar Spud slams the door on EC3, allowing Matt Hardy to escape the cage and win. So I really like that dynamic. That's why I got number 3. I felt the Spud heel turn was kind of unnecessary, like I thought for Matt Hardy. So with that, I put it as number 3. It was still a good moment, still a good match. Not as good as my number 1 and number 2, which you're going to hear coming up, but it was still a very good moment that I felt needed to be on this list, and that's why I put it at number 3.
Number 2.
My number 2, well, what was your number 3 became my number 2, but for different reasons. Yes, it was the World's Heavyweight Championship match inside, I guess I call it was a lockdown in London. It means the best way to put it. And it was the World Championship match. And what stood out to me, and I watched the match bell to bell, start to finish, like I did any other rivalry, was a whole lot of things. One, Matt Hardy has not pinned or submitted EC3, which means EC3 has still not been pinned or submitted. Period. That should have been number 1. 2, this was personal. 3, and the most of all, when it comes to veterans and guys upgrading to main event status, here's the one most important point. Matt Hardy is making EC3 a better main eventer. That's the deal that stood out to me. Other than Spud, heel turning in his home country, Matt Hardy making EC3 a better main eventer is why this got my number 2 spot. What's yours?
Yeah, I mean, I do agree. That did make EC3 a better main eventer. I think in the long run, that's going to help him be like kind of the face of the company. But we're talking about my number 2, and my number 2 is actually going to be Dean Ambrose and Brock Lesnar confrontation. Now, with this, yes, I just love the dynamic. For weeks now, Dean Ambrose has been poking the bear and really showing that he is a lunatic fringe, and they even address this on SmackDown. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting a different result. So I love this for very many different reasons.
Big time reasons.
And those reasons were that right before Raw came on the air, they even showed Dean Ambrose arriving at the building, and with that, you having Brock Lesnar coming out of nowhere and attacking him. And then that leading up to later on in the night, I think it was the start of the second hour of Raw, you had Brock Lesnar come out behind him and just great promo, talking about what happened at Fastlane, and then like making an open challenge, and then you hear the ambulance like the and then it's just the ambulance, and you're like, who's in the ambulance? And of course, it's Dean Ambrose. He comes out kind of just like stumbling and stuff, and really selling that he took a beating earlier in the day, and then just saying he wanted to challenge Brock Lesnar to a no-holds-barred match at WrestleMania, which I don't know if that's a good thing for Ambrose or not. I don't know if I'm excited about it, but just this confrontation, like what happened before Raw and what happened and during Raw, just this had to be my number 2 moment, so that's why I put it at number 2. It wasn't as good as my number 1 moment, so that's why I put it at number 2. Number 1.
Well, what would have been my number 1 ended up dropping to number 5, as you already heard. My number 1 is historic. First time it's happened, just overall period. The second time in TNA that this has kind of happened since 2007. But my number 1 moment is historic. Lethal Lockdown, the Knockouts Lethal Lockdown. Dollhouse versus Gail Kim, Velvet Sky, and would have been Madison Rayne, and would have been Maria Kanellis Bennett. Not the case. This was the perfect opportunity for the Knockouts to really, really step up the game and say, hey, why should the guys be a part of Lethal Lockdown all the time? Why can't us girls have some fun, in the words of Cyndi Lauper? This match delivered. It delivered a lot more than what I thought it would. I was interested to see what would have happened if either Angelina Love would have been in this match, or if Madison Rayne would have been in the match. What would have really, really happened? But regardless, Jade was my MVP in this match because she really showed it. So that's my number 1. Very historic. Not many times you will ever see women in a cage match on television. Not ever. That's my number 1. And I already know what your number 1 moment may have been my number 5 on this list, but I could be wrong.
Well, my number 1 moment, you're right, and it was, you talk about history, and that was your decision for your number 1, and I felt insulted. You put this as number 5. This was the best moment of the week for me. Shane McMahon returning to WWE, to me, just put everything.
It was a shocker, no question.
Yeah, it was a shocking moment. And we're coming up WrestleMania 32, and we've talked on past podcasts of, will WWE be able to sell WrestleMania 32 out with the current roster? Well, they brought Shane McMahon back. So that goes to show that maybe they didn't have faith that the current roster was going to sell out WrestleMania. So, I mean, they pulled out a hat trick and bringing back Shane McMahon, who's not been in WWE in 7 years. So, just that historic moment of Shane McMahon coming out, to me, that trumped anything. Granted, it is historic to have the women in the cage match, but the cage match, wasn't very good, wasn't very top 5 worthy in my opinion. I'm not knocking the women, the knockouts, because the knockouts are some of the best women's wrestling that you have out there. They're all.
But it's your opinion. So
yeah, but Shane McMahon returning trumps everything this week. And no, I'm not talking about the president or potential president and of Donald Trump there, but just him coming back and then just setting up for a WrestleMania match and it being against The Undertaker at WrestleMania 32. Granted, I was excited in the moment, but after thinking for a moment, I'm like, is that really the best way to use The Undertaker at WrestleMania 32? Granted, it's good for Shane, but I don't know how I feel about it. Undertaker facing Shane.
There's rumors circling all around that.
Well, that was our top 5 moments of the week. So, I mean, if you guys want to tell us your top 5 moments, feel free to do so.
Get interactive, please.
Get interactive. But it's now time for our final commercial break. But you need to stay tuned, guys. Rapid Fire is next, so don't go anywhere.
Tired of the same uncomfortable mattress? Want to sleep better without breaking the bank? I got good news for you. Go to Sleep Cheap. They have a huge inventory of mattresses at incredible prices. With guaranteed financing with no credit score required, that makes it easy for you to qualify for a brand new mattress. Use the promo code PPWP today and get 30% off. Go see Jeff Toddy at 2801 South Caraway Road in Jonesboro, Arkansas. It's time to get your sleep back. It's time to sleep cheap.
This is Brad Hargett, and you're listening to the Power of Pro Wrestling podcast.
Welcome back to the show. It's now time for the fastest segment of the show, Rapid Fire. For this edition of Rapid Fire, we are predicting Ring of Honor guys signing with WWE. So we're going to start with Adam Cole, baby.
55% chance it'll happen. I mean, Adam Cole's, granted he's fast rising, but his in-ring skills are way more impressive than a lot of his mouth skills, even though he has excellent promo skills. Excellent. But I would say 55% chance it could happen. What do you think?
Well, I mean, he has had an interview with different wrestling pundits saying that he has had tryouts with WWE. So, I mean, I definitely could see him signing with WWE at some point in the future. It just depends on what his career goes with Ring of Honor, if he has good contract negotiations with them, whether or not he stays. I mean, I could definitely see him coming to WWE. And a lot of Ring of Honor and TNA guys are now coming to WWE for NXT, so I could definitely see him signing. Let's go next with Dalton Castle.
75% chance, if we were playing odds makers, there's to be 75% chance he could go WWE. He's more the flashy style that they're looking for. Granted, he's got the amateur style that could make him, the third member of American Alpha, if you get my NXT drift. Got the amateur skills to back it. He's pretty darn tough. He's got the flashiness to prove it. I say if you bring Castle, bring the boys.
I definitely can see Dalton Castle signing with NXT just for the simple fact you mentioned the boys. He's flashy. If you listen to me, I ramble on incessantly about how much I love Dalton Castle, his charisma and stuff like that, and I really think he does fit WWE.
His ring skills impressive.
Okay, let's go with Jay Lethal.
If I had to go Jay Lethal, I'd say 25% chance. Lethal is, even though his skill set a lot of times will fit WWE, his toughness factor will favor more Ring of Honor TNA. And plus, he likes to travel and likes to go to various places to face various competition. So I'll say 25% chance if he goes.
I really don't know that Jay Lethal would go to WWE. I really think he would be happy in Ring of Honor, and like he's been with TNA and stuff like that. So I don't know.
Or he could go TNA.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't see him necessarily going with WWE. So I mean, I think he's happy with Ring of Honor where he's at. He's been treated very well. So I mean, as long as he has a good contract negotiation and stuff, I don't see him going to WWE anytime soon, even if he does go ever in his career.
Who's next?
Okay, let's go with Beer City Bruiser. I'm going to throw you a curveball there.
No. If he were to go, he'll change his name and change the personality. But I say no, simply for the fact that he has a little bit of that brawl style, a little reminiscent of the Crusher. And everybody knows, if you're a wrestling historian like I am, who the Crusher is. I really don't see him somewhat with NXT. NXT or WWE could drop a curveball and say, hey, I told you so. But I see them a little bit similar to a TNA, but Ring of Honor is best fit for them, in my opinion.
Yeah, for Beer City Bruiser, WWE wants guys that look athletic and stuff like that and really fit a certain mold. So with the Beer City
And
Bruiser,
he's athletic, but not
Beer City Bruiser almost falls in that like Kevin Steen type. He's like a bigger guy who doesn't necessarily look like he's in shape and very athletic. So I don't really think he fits WWE mode. I don't think WWE would ever want to sign him, even if he did try to go to WWE, unless he changed his look of appearance or something like that. So I could definitely say no on Beer City Bruiser ever going to WWE. Next one we've got is the last real man, Mr. Silas Young, his tag team partner.
With WWE's lack of bad characters, and their bad characters are really not going anywhere. With the exception of Kevin Owens, to me, I see Silas Young. I'm going, like I said, if this was odds makers, I'm going as high as 95%. WWE need a real man attitude like heel, other than Kevin Owens. Silas Young to provide it for him, along with his wrestling skills, and he's got the experience to back it. I say 95% chance, but I'm going 95% chance. Boom.
I'm going to say no on Silas Young. I don't think WWE would want Silas Young either. I mean, granted, the whole last real man gimmick is a great one, and WWE kind of had that with Bull Dempsey there for a little bit before they did the ridiculous Bull Fit gimmick, which it was kind of getting over. But I mean, I loved Bull Dempsey when he was kind of like what Silas Young, the last real man, this tough guy. So I don't know if he would really be a fit for WWE. So I'm going to say no on Silas Young.
But if they needed a bad guy or an extra bad guy, would he be chosen, in your opinion?
I really don't think he would. But let's go with our final one. Red Dragon. You can go Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly. So you can do them as a team or them separately, however you want to do it.
No. I really don't see both of them. And granted, people say, hey, egg on your face. But because of the styles that both of them work, and Bobby Fish is an excellent talker. My goodness. He'll talk your butt off in the ring, and he'll talk your butt off outside the ring. He is that good. If WWE needs a talker, Bobby Fish will work. But right now, because Fish is more of his own style, and so is Kyle O'Reilly, they'll eliminate all their practice routines and eliminate any MMA affiliations if they were to sign with WWE. So I'm going no. I say they have the best chance of sticking with Ring of Honor and TNA rather than they ever would WWE.
Yeah,
short lived.
I agree that Red Dragon, I don't see either of them signing with WWE either as a team or separately, just for the simple fact of their style and stuff like that. And I think they would fit better for a Ring of Honor or TNA, so I don't ever see them signing with WWE.
Well, I'll tell you this, while we do have this time, hey, we have a great podcast here at the Power of Pro Wrestling. It doesn't matter if I'm the guest, it doesn't matter if he's the host, it doesn't matter who's the guest on this show. We have an excellent content. And what really, really helps us grow is your support. Whatever you do, it's less than $1 a week. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's as low as $1 a week,
yes.
$1 an episode.
You can't get no better than this. We will discuss some of the topics that you won't hear anywhere else. Literally, we're talking excellent journalism here that we literally search for the story to bring to you, to help you connect with us. So, what you got to lose? And guess what? If you having some sleeping problems or you just need a new mattress, I got the man you need to see. Jeff Titan over there at Sleep Cheap, 2801 South Caraway Road in Jonesboro. And mention PPWP, get 30% off. Can't beat that. What do you got to say?
Well, obviously, we want to thank Jeff from Sleep Cheap as our sponsor. So
thanks, Jeff.
Check them out. Also, we want to thank the Repost Network. They allow us to provide this podcast for you by giving us unlimited storage space on SoundCloud. So you can check us out on SoundCloud. So thank you for the Repost Network, and you can monetize your SoundCloud content. RepostNetwork.com.
Money.
Also, you can check out all of our social media outlets. Facebook, The Power of Pro Wrestling, Twitter at Robert Red Jr., on Instagram at Robert Red Jr., and that's for all the latest news regarding the podcast. You can also check out Mr. Heineken at Chris Heineken 1.
You got it.
On social media. You can support us on Patreon, which is patreon.com/PPWP. For that great content that he's talking about, and you get some great rewards. It is definitely worth checking out, guys.
Yes, it is. It's worth the money.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, you can check us out both on iTunes and SoundCloud. iTunes, if you'll search the Power Pro Wrestling Podcast, and SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/PPWP. Thank you for joining me, Mr. Cornbread Chris Heineken.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, you're welcome, but thank you guys, the audience, for supporting the show. Now,
that's right.
Now
you, the audience.
You can catch us right here next time on the Power of Pro Wrestling Podcast.
See ya.